Hello there, my beautiful friends. Welcome to another season. I can't believe it, but we are entering Aries season once again. And that means it's been an entire year since I started doing these season videos where we take a minute to explore the archetype, feel through what the season's really all about, and then get ourselves set up for the month ahead. And it's been such a journey because when I started doing these a year ago, the first time was with Aries. It was in a season where I was really reevaluating what is meaningful to me in this work and who I want to be and how I want to work. And I'm still muddling through that, to be completely honest. I think anybody who is in this line of work has to constantly be refining and reflecting and really thinking on philosophical level about what makes sense and what matters and what really is for the greatest good for myself and for anybody who's sitting here with me. And that is a journey that I'm definitely still on and still figuring out. But I've so appreciated getting to share this with those of you who have rode along with me as I've been transforming and as I've been really getting clearer and clearer about what I think is important in this field, in the work of storytelling, archetypes, astrology, tarot, and the way that we use these tools to build a deeper, more meaningful life. And I think that's really it. It's about feeling more soulful and more empowered to explore like the symbolism and the strange energetic arcs that our lives take, rather than categorizing ourselves and cutting ourselves off. This is really about expanding ourselves, loosening up and opening up. So that is not going to change. We're going to keep doing that. And I'm very excited to explore Aries season 2023 with you today. So let's just get into it. Let's do a little review of Aries just really quickly. So Aries is that first sign of the zodiac. It's often associated with this idea of I am, or the ego, which is a complicated topic, actually. I think, it's so easy to be like writing off this idea of the ego and being like, oh, that's just your ego. And I think there's so many layers to this conversation that we could get into today. We could probably do a 10-part series if we really wanted to. But I think what's important to remember about working with Aries energy is that it's actually a very, very vulnerable energy to work with, because it is the initiator. It is the first one out in the field. It is the part of us that was brave enough to experience being an individual, which can be both very exciting and empowering and such an important experience that each of us has as we move through a life, but also can feel very much like we can at times feel detached from divine source, detached from the others around us, and also feel very vulnerable in being the ones that each have to forge our own path and having to follow a path that nobody else has made before. And each of us are doing that in our lives. And I know many Aries. I have had a lot of Aries in my life, friends and coworkers and co-creators and people in all areas of my life. I've had so much Aries energy in my life. And one thing I will say is they are some of the most vulnerable people. They will get out there and try things and do things, but inside they're often moving through a lot of depth within that, and can often feel like they are very exposed to the world because of the fact that they are often the people who are out there trying things for the first time and initiating things and messaging people and getting to know people. And I think there is such a deep, sweet vulnerability to working with Aries energy. The images that are associated with it, it's obviously the ram, a kind of stubborn energy, one could say. And it's also ruled by Mars, which is associated kind of with this idea of will and desire and how we use motivation to move through life. And all of those things are valid when we're exploring and experimenting with the archetype of Aries and playing with this part of ourselves that does feel its individual sense of being and does feel like we want to go for those things and try things out. I think it's important, though, to remember that this is vulnerable and it requires a certain level of courage and self-awareness to work with, and can often leave us feeling a little bit overwhelmed. So It's important we take care of ourselves as we dream and as we initiate. The initiatory experience innately means that we are on a path that nobody has forged before us, and therefore we're having to figure it out as we go, and that's a huge part of working with Aries energy. So let's get into what this Aries season is all about. It's a really unique one because we are really starting some really big new energetic cycles. We have just had Saturn move into Pisces a few weeks before this Aries season. This Aries season, we're also going to see our first moment of Pluto moving into Aquarius. So we are starting a lot of new energetic cycles, on top of which Aries is always going to be tied to new seed planting, new sprouts of life coming in, new initiations, the lighting of the candle, the sparking of new ideas. Some of the themes that we're going to be noticing for this particular Aries season are, what do we really want? And are we expressing that to those around us? So we're going to be feeling through what it is that we truly want and what is just a performance, what is just a costume we put on. And that's a question that is a lifetime of exploration, I think, but some of those themes are going to be coming up as we move through this Aries season. Another theme that we will be exploring this Aries season is, what is our relationship to change and starting new? Do we have fears about change? Do we have insecurities? Do we have places where that just feels totally overwhelming? There might be parts of us that feel very excited and very ready to begin again and would like to leave the past in the past. And do we have a relationship with how we change form and shape? Do we have a friendship established with it? Are we still feeling like that's something that feels very out of our control and very scary? This is going to be a great season to recognize our vulnerability as we experience the world as our own little individual self, as we experience the world not from that kind of expanded Piscean connectedness, but sometimes where it feels like we in the end have to just grapple with ourselves and sit with ourselves and hear ourselves. I think this is such an interesting season for exploring our relationship to that growth and change and how we feel through that process. And finally, I think the big theme that we're going to be seeing here for this Aries season is accepting ourselves as we are and not as we think others expect us to be. This is going to be such an important element of this Aries season. We're going to be seeing this time and again. We may have an idea of who we think we need to be to our friends, to our partners, to our kids, to our colleagues, to everybody around us. But a lot of times we've come up with these ideas of who we need to be for other people without really knowing that those other people expect it of us. And of course, some of us may be in situations where we know there's a cultural expectation. Here's who you have to be. Regardless, this is a season where it's about accepting who we really are and not the roles we think we need to play, not the roles that others think we need to play, but just finding more peace with who we truly are, which is actually a very uncomfortable experience because it is going to be about accepting our awkwardness. You know, I was just watching a sitcom because I was having a tired day and I just wanted to watch something really light and silly. And it was so interesting to me because a lot of the comedy in this sitcom was about people pretending to be normal all around them and then judging people who were a little bit quirky or different. And I was thinking about how that's such a standard in our culture, you know, like, oh my God, I went on a date with this person and then they were just so weird. They had this interest in this thing and then they had this awkward way of talking. And it's like, there's this innate training that we've all had, all of us, myself included, especially to put it on ourselves that, you know, we can't fully accept ourselves and our awkwardness and our unknowing and our special interests and in the way that we move through the world. And I think this is actually very deep healing work that is so important. So we're going to be seeing a lot of work around those topics, I think, this Aries season, but also so much liberation and maybe a lot more fun and play because of taking the time to explore accepting ourselves. Let's get into the transits for this Aries season. It's a really interesting dynamic Aries season, one that I'm actually really looking forward to. So we have the sun moving into Aries on March 20th. And right after that, we have the Aries new moon on March 21st, the first of two for this Aries season. So I have an Aries new moon video out. You can watch that, enjoy that. It's a really great time, but that new moon is really about what would happen if we weren't using so much energy keeping up the appearances of who we think we need to be, controlling ourselves, forcing ourselves to be here, there, and everywhere. What would happen if we let go a little bit? And I know a lot of us will probably think initially, if I just let myself be, the world is just gonna fall down around me. Nothing's going to get done. I'm not going to be a responsible, good person. But I think that actually the real answer is that's not necessarily true. So we're going to be exploring that. And like I said, I have a whole video about that out. And that new moon is a 0-degree new moon. It's happening on the equinox at the beginning of Aries season. It's very symbolic of new beginnings and planting new seeds, but it's important we do that from our home address, from who we truly are and not from who we think we need to be. So the big thing here at the beginning of Aries season is getting really honest about who we really are. Lifelong endeavor, but we can take a moment during this new moon. Right after that new moon, we have our first little foray of Pluto entering Aquarius. Now, that's another video that's actually out as well if you're looking for in-depth conversation around Pluto and Aquarius. But Pluto has been in Capricorn for a long time, like 15 years. Pluto is going to be moving between Aquarius and Capricorn for the next year and a half, a little more than that. And so we're going to be modulating between these two, but we're having our initial first little moment here with Pluto in Aquarius. And this is about our relationship to change, our comfort with change, our discomfort with change, our fears around change, our fears around stability, and that we can find empowerment in change. And this is also about really connecting to our deep subconscious and the way it affects how we think we need to move in the world. So this transit does go deep. Like I said, I have a whole video about it, but we're just getting started here. And Pluto and Aquarius is going to be a theme for the next 20 years. So we have some time, but we are starting some new energetic cycles there, and we are letting go of old energetic cycles on a collective level, which means that our whole society is also reflecting on these ideas of what it means to accept ourselves, what it means to change, and what it means to step out of some of the costumes that we felt we've needed to hold on to for so long. So it's pretty profound, and we're just beginning here during this Aries season. Next transit that I wanted to talk about for this season is Mars moving on into Cancer on March 25th. So Mars has been in Gemini for a long time because it had its retrograde there. So it's been many, many months that we have been working with this very specific energy of Mars in Gemini. Now, Mars in Cancer is actually one of my favorite placements. And I think I say that with a little bit of attitude because it is the kind of standard approach to think of Mars in Cancer as a problematic placement, because basically, if you look at standard astrology, it's going to say that Mars in Cancer is about being passive aggressive. Not being able to directly go for what you want in life, not being able to express yourself to other people, and to feel like you have to kind of suppress yourself. And I think it's the exact opposite. When Mars is in Cancer, we are asked to get really honest about what is true for us, to get emotively honest about what motivates us and what actually matters to us. And to have the conversations that allow us to share what matters to us the most. You know, Cancer is about our deep intuitive wisdom and knowing, and how we take action on that wisdom and knowing. So when Mars is in this sign, I think it brings with it a lot of deep honesty, a lot of deep clarity. But a lot of times we feel like we're not allowed to trust it because our culture has said that you have to accomplish things and tackle things in this really direct forward motion way, in a Martian way that's often associated more with Aries or Scorpio, where you move forward, you make things happen. Mars in Cancer puts that all on its head and asks us to listen in first before we take action, and has some of the best information we could possibly want. And we'll be working with Mars in Cancer until May 20th. So for the next couple of months, there's going to be an emphasis here on actually trusting your intuition and not just taking action out of an empty forcefulness, but out of a really deeper truth. Then we have Mercury on April 3rd is going to move out of Aries. It's been in Aries the first couple of weeks and moves into Taurus. And Mercury in Taurus is so much about how we communicate through beauty. The art we create, the poetry we create, the conversations we have, and how much that lends beauty to our lives, how important that is, the role it really plays in our culture and in our connections and in our relationships. On April 5th, we have the full moon in Libra. And I'm really excited about this full moon. It is opposing Chiron. So the full moon in Libra is opposing the sun and Chiron in Aries. And that opposition is really about how we accept like our flaws or the weak points or the places in ourselves that we perceive to be problematic or awkward or uncomfortable or unworkable as the places through which our most beautiful creations, our deepest connections, and the things that are really going to matter in our lives can come. And I think this goes back to that theme of deep self-acceptance. And it flies in the face of what our culture has told us is valuable. And it's going to be a exploration of that. You know, traditionally Libran energy is about diplomacy and keeping up good appearances. And I mean, that's the superficial reading of it. And when we get back to Libra later this year, we will talk about Libra and why it's not just that. But I think, you know, that idea that true beauty is about being palatable is getting challenged here. And we're thinking about what it means to just allow ourselves to be in a room, in a conversation, in a relationship with who we are, with how we are. It's really going to be a potent, beautiful moon. We have Venus moving into Gemini on April 10th. Venus in Gemini is so playful and curious and very much about how we create communication and ideas, playful words, playful new ideas, playful creative new ideas. It's going to be a really beautiful transit. And then we're going to end Aries season this year with the beginning of eclipse season. The new moon is happening. We have 2 Aries new moons, and this is the second one. The new moon solar eclipse, total solar eclipse in Aries happening on April 19th. 29 degrees of Aries, very last thing that we are doing in this Aries season, because we are very soon going to have the North Node in Aries. Not quite yet, but we are starting to have eclipses in the Aries Libra axis. Now this particular eclipse season is going to involve the Taurus Scorpio axis, but we are going to start with this new moon total solar eclipse in Aries. And this one is squaring Pluto, which has newly entered Aquarius. And this is really about how our lives are longing to take new forms. This has been a theme all of 2023 so far, that who we thought we needed to be and who we thought we were going to be in previous years is not really wrapping up the way we might have thought it was. And this first eclipse of eclipse season is really going to acknowledge that our lives are longing to take on new forms and not hold up the same format that maybe we thought we needed to. It's a culminating place of thinking about the way we've been changing over the last 6 months or so. So it's a really potent end to Aries season. No joke. It's a really powerful Aries season in so many ways. And it really is asking questions about how we motivate ourselves, how we put on costumes, and how we can ultimately accept ourselves, our changing selves, our changing dreams, and just who we are in this moment right now. Not even who we're going to be next year or 6 months from now when we've accomplished something, but who we are right now. Is it okay to be who we are right now? And I think that's so soulful and maybe one of the most important conversations we can have in a lifetime. So let's pull some cards. I'm just going to pull 4 cards, one for approximately each week of Aries season. Hanged Man, perfect. I love it so much. Maybe one of my favorite cards of all time. It's just such a powerful card. I love it. I love it. I love it. 5 of Swords, classic. This is actually a really important lesson and one that I love to go over and explore. So I'm excited that we get to do that here today. 2 more cards just came out together. Ten of Cups and Page of Swords. So let's talk about it. This is so beautiful. Makes me a little emotional. So Hanged Man, our good friend, the Hanged Man. So this is the wisdom of inverting everything. Slow is fast. Gentle is strong. Taking a moment to hear ourselves before we move is the clearest way to move forward. I think this is such an important element of this Aries season. You know, with that Mars and Cancer energy, with Pluto entering Aquarius, with the new moons and eclipse season beginning, this is really a season of recognizing that we can't force ourselves to be a certain way. It's so important that we understand that our dreams and our visions matter, and that taking a moment to acknowledge those things is going to be one of the best ways that we can move forward in our lives. It's also about, any situation that we may have keep running into and keep feeling like we keep hitting the same wall. It's time to turn it on its side or turn it on its head and start looking at it in new ways, and not just assume things and take them for what they are, but to explore what is really going on, to really see things with fresh eyes, to really be able to perceive and see. That is so much of the work of the Hanged Man. It's also to incorporate deep wisdom that takes a long time, and to have a deeper spiritual perspective of our experience here on Earth. Now, right next to that, we go right into Five of Swords, which is a complicated card. When I see this, a lot of times people say, oh, this is the card of we can't trust people, and they could be doing sneaky things behind your back and stealing your swords or not being trustworthy. But here's the thing with Five of Swords. This is an exploration of our own self-trust. And if we allow ourselves to trust what doesn't feel right? If we are in situations where it just doesn't feel like this is a good situation. Also, it doesn't have to be about other people. It can also be about something that maybe we continue to force ourselves to do, a routine, a job, an identity that we keep forcing ourselves to do, and everything just feels off and jangly, and you don't know how to read other people or understand what to do because you're feeling so off. This card really represents that energetic feel of clashing, of something that is not you forcing yourself to do, you're forcing through the world that does not quite feel right. So this is going to be an exploration that we're going to be seeing time and again this year, and definitely during this Aries season. What are we forcing ourselves to do? And recognizing when it doesn't feel right. And this can be really simple stuff too. It doesn't always have to be super dramatic quittings and leavings. It could be, but a lot of times I think we start discerning this stuff in the little details of our lives, in the little moments of where we have energy or where we don't, where we say yes and where we say no, just to little things. So start practicing there. Now with that, if we're willing to acknowledge what needs to shift and what we can't pretend and hold on to anymore, some beautiful new things are also coming into the picture. And I really love that these cards showed up in our talk today, because I've been kind of talking about the intensity of accepting change and accepting how we've grown and accepting ourselves. And that's all powerful stuff that's so important and is actually really beautiful and so full of grace and beauty. But along with that, beautiful new things do want to start taking form and shape in our lives. And I can see that here in both the culmination of the Ten of Cups and in the fresh spirit of Page of Wands, which is so Aries. Just that fresh, youthful, what's going to happen? What could happen? What could it look like? Not having been singed by the fire yet, a kind of youthful excitement for what is possible. And I think this is such an important part of this Aries season, and maybe one that I didn't give enough credit for in the earlier chat today. I think let yourself dream. Let life be good where it is good. Give yourself moments where you just let there be a good moment over a cup of tea, during a walk, during a great chat with a friend, during a long nap. Let those soft places open, and there are new elements wanting to come in and grow and bloom. And I think that is one of the beautiful things about Aries season. It is both about deep healing, taking care of that part of ourselves that feels like that little individual that's so alone in the world, and it's also about new beginnings. And I think this Aries season is a really beautiful meeting point between those two experiences. And there's a lot of new beautiful things that do want to come into fruition and culmination. And our job is to practice perceiving and being able to see those things. So I'm very excited for this. I am going to be walking us through all of this Aries season, getting us kind of oriented with Pluto and Aquarius, taking us through eclipse season in really deep depth over on my Patreon. That is really the place where you can help me the most, support me to keep doing this work and to keep sharing it. But also, if you just are enjoying hanging out here, it's amazing. It is so amazing when you subscribe, when you comment, when you like. First of all, I just love hearing from you and I love having you here, but it also helps this message get out to more people so that we can have a more chill and deep and meaningful community around tarot and astrology and not have it be about so much destruction and drama. And I'm really excited to share that message. So when you show up here and when you like and when you subscribe, it makes a huge difference. You wouldn't even believe. So I just appreciate all of you so much. Like, I cry when I read the comments. I feel it all so much. I hope you have a beautiful Aries season. If you want to find me on Instagram, you can find me at the one handle at Sarah Verba. You can also find me on my website. And like I said, Patreon. So I'll leave all those links below. Have a beautiful Aries season. I will see you very soon for our next chat because there's a lot coming up on the coming weeks. Talk to you soon.